Lieutenant Aria Solace wiped her hands on a rag stiff with old oil. The late afternoon sun pierced through the steel shutters of Hangar Bay 3, turning the concrete floor into gold-streaked stone. Outside, the Arizona Air Base buzzed with activity. Jets screamed overhead, crews shouted over the roar of engines, and somewhere near the tower, laughter broke out from a group of pilots standing in a loose semicircle. The laughter wasn't for her. It never was. She ignored them and kept inspecting the fuselage of the Phantom Valkyrie 9, a prototype aircraft so advanced, most mechanics weren't even allowed to touch it. But Aria didn't just touch it. She maintained it. Tuned it. Knew it better than the engineers who built it. "I swear she treats that bird like it's her kid," one of the lieutenants muttered behind her. "Yeah," another chuckled. "Too bad she can't fly it. Would love to see the wrench monkey crash and burn." Aria said nothing. She didn't have the rank. She didn't have the wings. She only had the knowledge, and a dossier so redacted, even base command tiptoed around her file. At 28, she was officially listed as an avionics systems specialist. Unofficially? A ghost. One who once aced every simulation, trained under Black Ops pilots in secret programs, and disappeared from the flight track after her brother, Captain Aria Solace, died during a covert extraction mission gone wrong. They blamed pilot error. She blamed the command that left him behind. 2 hangars away, the real pilots, those with clearance badges and embroidered call signs, were prepping for routine drills. Aria could hear their chatter echoing down the corridor, broken up by bursts of ground crew instructions and the screech of metal tow rigs. She checked the diagnostics one last time. Phantom Valkyrie 9, or PV-9 Shadowhawk, as it was tagged in the internal database, was running clean. Triple redundant systems all green. Flight capable. Too bad no one trusted her to fly it. She ran her fingers along the carbon composite frame, pausing at a hairline crack she'd spotted last week and had personally sealed. The aircraft was a masterpiece. Delta wing design, electromagnetic flight stabilizers, stealth-profiled armor. Faster than any jet in the air and quieter than a whisper in fog. And it was going to rot here if the brass kept delaying trial flights. A voice interrupted her thoughts. "Still pretending you're a pilot, Solace?" She turned. Lieutenant Commander Reed Thayer stood at the hangar entrance, arms folded across his chest, aviator sunglasses gleaming despite being inside. "I don't pretend," Aria said, wiping her hands again. "I maintain the bird that keeps you alive when your joystick skills aren't enough." "Oof," Thayer laughed. "Still got that spark. Too bad spark doesn't count for certification." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You're wasting your time. Command doesn't care how good you are. They didn't 7 years ago, and they sure as hell don't now. You're the girl with the dead brother and a record full of black ink. You're just a tech." Aria stared at him, jaw tight. "I'd rather be a tech who knows what she's doing than a pilot who forgets his own pre-flight checklist." Thayer leaned in, his tone suddenly shifting from smug to almost sympathetic. "Look. We've all read your file. We know you were close. Kale was a good pilot. But this," he gestured to the Shadowhawk, "isn't how you get redemption." He left without waiting for a response. Aria stood alone in the hangar, the dust swirling around her boots. She'd been grounded before she ever left the tarmac. Grounded by politics, loss, and the unspoken curse of her last name. But the sky still called to her. And fate was already writing a different kind of flight plan. The next morning broke over the Mojave like molten gold. Heat shimmered across the tarmac long before noon. Aria was already deep beneath the PV-9 Shadowhawk's chassis, recalibrating its secondary turbine line, when the base siren shattered the air. 3 long bursts. Then a voice through the intercom, crackling but clear. "All personnel, emergency alert. Operation Fireglass is now active. Civilian convoy under siege in Quadrant Echo 12. Immediate rescue protocol. All certified Valkyrie pilots report to Briefing Room Alpha. Repeat, Operation Fireglass is active." Aria froze. Echo 12. Remote desert pass near the Utah border. Mostly used for experimental logistics testing, until now, apparently. She climbed out from beneath the fuselage, dropping the wrench as her mind raced. Rescue operation. Mid-desert. No reinforcements nearby. PV-9 was ready. Flight capable. Fully fueled. But the flight roster would be down a pilot. Aria knew it before she even checked. And she was right. Inside the maintenance office, the live flight board flickered with assignments. Lieutenant Jameson, call sign Valkyrie 6, was scratched off the list, medevac 2 days ago with a concussion from a failed hover drill. No replacement listed. The only other Valkyrie pilot cleared for Fireglass, Commander Thayer, was already airborne on an unrelated test flight 300 miles away. No pilot available for PV-9. The words glowed red across the operations terminal. Aria's heart slammed against her ribs. The convo wouldn't last. Fireglass protocol was rarely invoked, only when rapid response extraction was needed under active threat. She pulled up the satellite telemetry, 4 civilian transports pinned between ridgelines. 2 hostile vehicles approaching fast. And no one else coming. She looked through the thick glass window at the phantom Valkyrie 9. This was the moment. No one would authorize her. No one would even consider it. But they didn't need to. Not this time. She grabbed the flight keycard from the backup locker, swiped her own badge for emergency override, access denied. She slammed her palm on the manual authorization panel and entered the fallback credentials her brother had whispered to her 7 years ago, the ones he made her memorize just in case. Authorization accepted. Shadowhawk status, launch ready. Aria climbed into the cockpit like it was second nature. Like she'd never left it. Her hands danced across controls she'd only ever touched in silence, alone in the hangar. And then her voice cut through the radio. Base command, this is Shadowhawk 90. Immediate launch initiated. Emergency vector Echo 12. I am wheels up in T-40 seconds. Silence. Then chaos. Negative. Who is this? Shadowhawk is grounded. Repeat, grounded. That is an unauthorized pilot. Abort launch, now. But Aria was already lifting off. No more pretending. No more maintenance crew. No more ghosts. The phantom Valkyrie 9 roared into the sky with the fury of a war machine and the grace of a hawk set free. The phantom Valkyrie 9 surged into open sky like it had been waiting for this day. Engines hummed in perfect sync, cloaked rotors adjusting to the turbulence over the Mojave. Below her, red rock canyons blurred as Aria banked east, heading straight toward Quadrant Echo 12. Her hands never shook. Not once. Inside the tower, chaos erupted. Who the hell authorized this? Colonel DeWitt slammed his headset down on the console. Shadowhawk was in dry dock status. Sir, it's already gone. Full velocity eastbound. Our override protocols didn't work. Who's flying it? The room hesitated. A junior officer finally replied. It's Lieutenant Solace, sir. Aria Solace. Maintenance crew. DeWitt's face drained of color. That name, again. Meanwhile, at the base's southern gate, a black SUV with pentagon plates rolled to a stop. A man in a charcoal gray officer's coat stepped out, his movements sharp despite the cane in his left hand. Scars from an old burn snaked up one side of his neck, barely visible beneath his collar. His hair had gone silver, but his eyes were still bright, a cold, calculating blue that had stared down world leaders and field commanders alike. Brigadier General Elias Vance, retired. Not expected. Not on the manifest. The gate guard fumbled. Sir, we didn't receive any. I'm not here for protocol. Vance snapped. I'm here for a pilot. He walked with quiet authority past the checkpoints and straight into command ops. The room fell still. General, Colonel DeWitt said, stunned. We weren't told you were coming. I didn't come to be announced, Vance interrupted. He stepped toward the screen tracking the Shadowhawk. Is she airborne? You knew she'd do this? I hoped, Vance replied. I trained her brother. I read her file. She's the best pilot this program ever ignored. DeWitt barked. She's not cleared. She stole a Valkyrie-class aircraft. No, Vance said. She saved it from collecting dust while your best qualified men were too busy covering their asses. There was silence. Then the rescue team monitoring Echo 12 spoke. We've got movement on target zone. Visual confirmation of Valkyrie approach. She's on scene. Quadrant Echo 12 wasn't on any tourist map. It was a graveyard of dust, heat, and shattered rock. The convoy, a civilian supply column contracted for experimental logistics support, was pinned in a natural bottleneck between two jagged ridgelines. Aria spotted the scene from 3,000 feet out. Shadowhawk 90 on approach. She radioed on the open rescue channel. Confirm status of convoy. Respond. A moment of static. Then, broken but urgent. This is Echo Convoy Actual. 2 transports disabled. Tires blown. We have wounded 3 civilians, 1 escort unit. Unknown hostiles closing in. No air support in range. Who the hell is flying Valkyrie 9? Aria's jaw set. Call sign Solace. Sit tight. You're not alone anymore. She dropped altitude like a stone, diving between 2 sandstone cliffs as warning pings blared across her HUD. Heat signatures. 2 hostile vehicles, fast approaching from the north, lightly armored, armed with mounted .50 Callies. One of them opened fire. Tracer rounds streaked past her wingtip. Aria yanked the stick into a split S, inverted roll, and came up behind the attackers so quickly it stunned even the convoy escort on the radio. Who the hell flies like that? She didn't answer. She was already switching targeting modes. PV-9 Shadowhawk wasn't a gunship. It wasn't built for assault. But Aria had modified the loadout weeks ago, just in case. 2 EMP microbursts primed. Non-lethal, but enough to fry anything with a circuit board. She fired. 2 shimmering pulses of light curved outward like falling stars. A second later, the pursuing trucks convulsed in sparks and smoke, their engines dying mid-chase. The first spun out, crashing against a rock outcrop. The second slammed to a halt, silent. Targets neutralized, Aria said calmly. But her work wasn't done. She surveyed the convoy. 1 truck was on its side. Another's rear axles were shattered. People were waving from the roof, signaling injuries. No safe place to land, not with power lines overhead and debris everywhere. She switched on the Shadowhawk's external comms. This is Lieutenant Aria Solace. We're conducting an airlift evac. 1 at a time, harness up. I will get you out. From the wreckage, a young man looked up, face bloodied, jacket scorched, and squinted through the sun at the aircraft descending like a steel angel. You're not even supposed to be here, he murmured. Aria lowered the rescue line and answered through the mic. That's exactly why I came. The evac began smoothly, but the desert never promised safety. Aria hoisted the first wounded civilian into the Shadowhawk, then the second. Wind howled through the narrow pass. Her sensors pinged again. 2 more unknown vehicles, different approach vector. Whoever was behind this ambush had reinforcements. Echo Convoy, brace for contact. We're not done yet. As she swung the Shadowhawk wide, a flash of movement on the canyon edge caught her eye. An RPG team, setting up behind cover. Too close. No time to climb. No time to dodge. So she cut the throttle, dropped to near zero altitude, and slid the Valkyrie sideways behind the lead transport like a combat ballet dancer. The RPG fired, missed by inches. The blast shook the valley. Aria didn't flinch. She powered the rotors again and rose like a phoenix behind the smoke, hovering just long enough to grab the last evacuees. Everyone accounted for, came the convoy leader's voice, awed. I don't know who you are, but you just saved 12 lives. She was already climbing toward the clouds. I'm just doing what someone should have done 7 years ago. 40 minutes later, the base was ready. Not for a rescue, but for a reckoning. Colonel DeWitt stood stone-faced on the tarmac. Ground crew lined up in disbelief. Officers whispered. A black SUV idled at the edge of the runway, General Elias Vance leaning against it, arms folded. The Valkyrie 9 appeared like a ghost over the horizon. Smooth descent. No radio drama. No chaos. Perfect landing. When the skids touched concrete, a strange silence fell. Aria emerged from the cockpit, helmet under one arm, boots caked in desert grit. She didn't smile. She didn't need to. The rescued civilians were already disembarking, helped by medics, shaking hands with base personnel. The flight log had been transmitted mid-air. DeWitt looked like he was preparing to court-martial her on the spot, until General Vance stepped between them. "Colonel," Vance said coolly, "your orders are to stand down." "Sir, she disobeyed protocol. She completed a live-fire rescue under extreme combat conditions using a platform none of your active pilots dared touch. 12 lives saved. Shadowhawk recovered. No civilian casualties." He turned to Aria. "Lieutenant Aria Solace, as of this moment you are reinstated to full flight status. Effective immediately." There was a beat of stunned silence. Then applause. It started with one engineer. Then two. Then the medics. Then even some of the pilots who had mocked her days ago. A week later, Heritage Hall was lit by the late afternoon sun. It smelled of oak polish, jet fuel, and legacy. Aria stood at attention beneath a new plaque mounted near the center wall. Her brother's photo now hung among the Air Force elite, Captain Cale Solace, honored not just for valor, but for a legacy that trained the pilot who would one day finish what he started. General Vance handed her a velvet case. Inside, a pin made of blackened titanium and silver. Valkyrie Black. A patch reserved for pilots who had completed unauthorized high-risk extractions with 0 casualties. Only 5 existed. Aria clipped it to her flight suit, eyes shimmering, but not from tears. From clarity. "Thank you, sir. But I didn't do it alone." "No," Vance replied. "But only one person had the guts to take off when no one gave permission." On her next flight, her name was stitched clean on her chest. No more mechanic. No more ghost. Just call sign Phantom. As she passed the tower, the crew stood for her. Even Thayer gave her a nod. And somewhere, in the desert wind echoing off red cliffs, her brother's voice seemed to whisper through her headset. "You were never grounded. You were just waiting for the right sky." She smiled, powered up the Valkyrie 9, and climbed toward the clouds.